What's the forecast for home prices over the next 5 years? What's available inventory going to look like in 2021? Will mortgages currently in forbearance cause a glut of housing inventory? And what if mortgage rates go up this year? That's what we're going to cover in this monthly market report. This is for you if you're a real estate agent or financial advisor interested in market data to help you advise a client, or perhaps you are that potential buyer or seller looking for some direction. I'm Paulo Rodríguez. I've been a mortgage professional since 2005, and I'm excited to share market data with you so that you can make an informed buying or selling decision or help your client do the same. "2020 is finally behind us." You might remember this slide from last year where we talked about home price change during the last 5 recessions and how a recession does not necessarily imply a housing crisis. Everybody remembers the housing crisis of 2008 where homes lost almost 20% of value, and yet when we look at prior recessions we see that 2008 was an outlier. And now we have the last 6 recessions further supporting the case that recession does not imply housing crisis, and we can see 4 of the 6 times home prices actually appreciated during recessions. Again, a lot of people think 2008 was going to happen all over again. Like a broken record, I've been saying that will not be the case. And here is the data supporting my position, which we can share with clients to help them understand the market we're in. So the story of 2020 is really the growth of home equity, and CoreLogic makes that point. Over the past year, strong home price growth has created a record level of home equity for homeowners. The average family with a home mortgage loan had $194,000 in home equity in the third quarter. By the way, that number before last year was $177,000 on average in home equity, so now that's grown to $194,000. They go on to say, "This provides an important buffer to protect families if they experience financial difficulties and is one reason for the generational low in foreclosure rates." Another reason for the generational low in foreclosure rates is that there is a moratorium right now on foreclosures. But this growing equity has and will continue to help people weather the storm relative to things they may be experiencing as a fallout of the pandemic and the challenges it has caused for businesses across the country and the economy as a whole. If we go deeper into the data from CoreLogic, $17,000 is the average gain in equity on a mortgaged home. We just talked about the $194,000 being the average equity of a home with a mortgage on it. CoreLogic says that 38.2% of homes across the country are owned free and clear, and 10.8% is the increase in equity totaling over $1 trillion since the third quarter of 2019. So that's a statistic comparing the third quarter of 2019 to the third quarter of 2020. So tremendous growth in home equity, and that's happening all over the country. You can see here, depending on the state that you live in, just how much equity has grown over the past year. We've talked about how back in 2008, a lot of the issues that we faced as an industry were because of the misuse of home equity, and we're certainly seeing a different story play out this time, and it's a story we want to help people understand. The CEO of CoreLogic said this: "The housing market has remained a strong pillar in an otherwise tumultuous economic year. A sharp rise in demand, spurred by record low interest rates, continues to bolster homeowner equity. And with many people now spending more time than ever before at home, some homeowners have tapped into their strengthening equity to fund renovations." And certainly that's been the case over the past year. Many people staying at home are buying another home, or they're improving their home, and equity has played a key part in this. So as we look forward, realtors, pay attention to this because you're going to love this. The most recent home price expectation survey shows us that over the next 5 years, the average home, a $300,000 home for example, if purchased today, would stand to gain about $54,000 in appreciation. So the question on a lot of people's minds is really what's ahead in 2021? And that may be a little blurry right now, but we can help make the path clearer relative to real estate and the needs our customers may have through looking at what experts are saying about 2021. The president of Homes.com said this: "The surge in the work from home population has rewritten the playbook for many home buying and rental decisions, from when and where to relocate to what people are looking for in their next residence." And from experience, we certainly know that to be true. People working from home have driven home buying decisions, and those may not necessarily be people working from home full time. Those may be people that may only need to go into the office 1 or 2 days a week. And there are still a lot of questions for many people that have yet to take action, and 2021 will bring them answers. And when things become clearer for them, they will then make that decision of where they want to buy a home. In my opinion, that wave of buyers we're experiencing is far from over. The chief economist at First American said this: "Despite the best of intentions of home builders to provide more housing inventory, The big short in housing supply will continue into 2021 and likely keep house price appreciation flying high. So the challenges in inventory, certainly for at least the first half of the year, are expected to persist and keep that upward pressure on home prices across the country. And that position is certainly supported by the 2021 home price forecast by these industry experts. We're talking anywhere from 2 to 6% appreciation from the Mortgage Bankers Association to the National Association of Realtors and everything in between. Take the midpoint of those projections and we're looking at roughly 4% appreciation in 2021. That is certainly less than the 7.3% we just experienced in 2020, and that could be an indication of projected rising inventory in the second half of the year, which is a good thing. But suffice it to say, we're going into 2021 with healthy expectations. Speaking of rising inventory, Realtor.com came out and said this: the bright spot for buyers is that more homes are likely to become available in the last 6 months of 2021. That should give folks more options to choose from and to take away some of their urgency. With a larger selection, buyers may not be forced to make a decision in mere hours and will have more time to make up their minds. So as we go throughout the year, expect more inventory to go on the market in the second half of the year as opposed to the first half of the year. Why? Because the expectation is that builders will have more homes available for sale. Also, less uncertainty surrounding the pandemic will contribute to some people feeling safer to go out, list their homes for sale, and do things that they otherwise did not do in 2020. So something that is on a lot of people's minds is the state of the economy. And so if we look at unemployment, where we stand today is 6.7%. And I'm not saying that's a good thing, but it certainly is a whole lot better than the high of 15% we experienced towards the middle of last year. Now, I bring up unemployment because renters are most affected in this area. The Policy Center at the Urban Institute said this: renters are disproportionately hurt by the crisis. A greater share of renters lost their jobs, and that meant using savings that could have been used for a down payment and falling behind on bills, which will hurt their credit and make it even more difficult for them to become future homeowners. There's a lot of truth to that observation, and as 2021 progresses, we will have to keep an eye on how the entry-level buyer has been affected. And that brings up the question, how is the current mortgage payer holding up in these times? Let's talk about forbearance. The data from the Home Price Expectation Survey for the fourth quarter shows 3 possible post-forbearance outcomes, and of the 2.7 million homeowners in forbearance, 58% said they will resume their mortgage payments, stay in their home for at least a year. That represents 1.57 million households. So the overwhelming majority will continue on and will be in their homes and will be largely unaffected. 24% there in the green will list their home within 1 year of exiting forbearance. That's 648,000 households. And 18% will receive a foreclosure notice within 1 year of exiting forbearance, which is 486,000 households. So while we should not be concerned with the blue and the green, how do we interpret the red? What if all 486,000 households hit the market all at once? That's almost 10% of the total number of homes sold in the US each year. The answer is, they won't. If all 486,000 homes do in fact end up in foreclosure, they will be gradually absorbed by a market that is already starving for inventory. And that's where the housing crash people get it wrong. They've looked at forbearance numbers, but have forgotten to put them into the context of all the other data available. There's not a day that goes by in which a client doesn't ask me what mortgage rates are going to do. My honest answer is, I don't know. I can make a very solid case that rates will go down because an accommodating Fed under the new administration will continue their purchases of mortgage-backed securities, and that the elevated levels of federal debt we hold today will in fact provide downward pressure on rates, which is contrary to the common thought that high debt means high interest rates. But despite my opinion, I can't ignore what people like the chief economist at the Mortgage Bankers Association have to say. And he said this: we're going to start to see mortgage rates drift up with treasury rates as opposed to moving in the opposite direction. Now, I've long learned to not attempt to make a determination in which direction rates will move, as there are simply too many forces in play. But if the worst were to happen and rates were to rise, let's simulate what the numbers would look like by the end of 2021. Here's a calculation based upon where interest rates are today, where they could be a year from now, and how appreciation comes into play. So let's take a look at a $300,000 mortgage as an example. An average 30-year fixed rate of 2.7%, and that principal and interest payment would be $1,217 per month. If we take the 2021 fourth quarter estimate according to Realtor.com of appreciation and their interest rate forecast, 5.7% appreciation, 3.4% interest rate. That mortgage is now $317,100. That principal and interest payment is $1,406 a month, a difference of $189. You might not think that's a big difference, but it will certainly have an effect, and you can't ignore the $68,000 in savings over the life of the loan if you act now as opposed to later. So if you're a realtor with a buyer that wants to wait for whatever reason, you're doing them a disservice by not pointing this out to them. Don't be shy or afraid of being pushy. You are a resource to your clients. Help them make an educated decision. Now, I'm not saying the scenario is absolutely going to happen, but it could happen. So that's a wrap for the January monthly market report. I appreciate you listening in. Forward, subscribe, share. I'll be back next month. But before you go, if you're looking to purchase or refinance or know someone that is and would like a no-cost consultation with me personally, feel free to reach out and I'll be happy to analyze if your debt is structured in the most optimal way or if there's room for improvement. Thanks again for tuning in. Bye for now.